let's just take a couple of minutes to breathe. No matter where you are in time and where you are in space, come home to your breath. Just with awareness of the feeling of the breath, the length of the breath, the sound of the breath, just take a pause and breathe. Let go of wondering why or wondering how, just breathe. Breathe in through your nose if possible, and breathe out the first couple of breaths with a sigh perhaps, an audible exhale. And if possible, breathing in and out through your nose. Breathing into the belly, so you fill the belly from the bottom up, and exhaling from the top down. So the end of the exhalation, the belly is drawn back, the navel slightly upwards, and then filling up the breath, filling up the belly from the bottom up. Gradually bringing the breath all the way up into the armpit chest, into the back, the space between the shoulder blades. Nowhere to go, nothing to do, no expectations of something to happen. But a pause. 3-minute breathing space. Being aware of your body, where you are in space. Where you're sitting, the support that you're sitting on, the temperature of the room. The feeling of your clothing as it drapes on your body and how that changes when you breathe in and out. Waistband rising and falling, the shoulders lifting and falling as you breathe in and out. Noticing if you can bring the center of your brain right over the center of the bowl of the pelvis. Feeling where your shoulder blades are, moving down the back. Bottom tips of the shoulder blades moving towards each other. Becoming aware of your thoughts. What is the quality of your thoughts right now? Is there a sense of anxiousness, worry, lack of control? Is there a sense of curiosity, pleasure? Just becoming aware of what your thoughts are in this moment. Taking care not to follow the thoughts, taking care not to push them away. Are you busy with thoughts? Are you sluggish in your mind? There's no right or wrong answer, just what is available to you right now. becoming aware of your breath. Tracing your breath from the beginning of the inhalation, following it where it goes from the belly up, and then the time and space before you exhale, the top of the breath, and being aware of the breath from the beginning, in the middle, and the end of the exhalation. The end of the exhalation, the navel draws back and slightly up. And that time and space just before you breathe back in to begin the cycle anew. Trace the breath, beginning in the middle and the end. Time and space between. Minute breathing space, a pause from your busy day, a practice that can be undertaken at any time during the day, especially when you feel like you're beginning to feel anxious or sluggish, and you know that there is a way to change that. And it can be just simply this 3-minute breathing space, becoming aware of the body, becoming aware of the thoughts, quality of your thoughts, and then becoming aware of the breath. Hatha Yoga Uttasanan. Now begins the teaching of yoga. Yoga is about mindfulness, it's about awareness. And this mindful movement practice is an opportunity to practice that mindfulness. In today's practice, we're going to revisit the Five Tibetans once again. And the Five Tibetans is also called the Fountain of Youth. And it is a series of 5 different movements that are mindful movements that have a breath component and the physical movement component. And the movement with breath is the key. And ultimately you work up to like 21 of each of these 5 exercises. And so we're going to start with just doing 5 of each. And before we move into the actual practice, we're going to do some warm-ups, and within these warm-ups there will be variations that I will offer for the actual practices themselves. And so it is something that I learned about many years ago, and it is actually a practice that my mother, who is 80 years old, practices every day. And my mother she's so vital, and she's so spirited, and she also still does the Royal Canadian exercises, if anybody's familiar with that. But the Five Tibetans is actually one of the main things that I think that it works on is the glandular body, and it gets many of the glands do not have a pump, and we need to move them ourselves, and so we nourish the thymus gland, the thyroid gland, the pancreas, the pineal, all of the adrenal glands, all of the glands in the body, and the lymph nodes as well as going through many of the motions, of the ranges of motions of our joints. And so if we can get our glands pumping and fresh, then we can be healthier in general, and we can feel better when we start to move our joints, and we don't feel so stuck. So you can slide off your cushion, and this practice is done on the floor as well as standing up, but we'll just begin on the floor. And so stretch your legs out in front of you and your hands behind you, kind of like a kickstand, and we'll just begin by circling the feet, waking up the hinge joint of the ankles, so pulling the toes towards you and then making big circles with the feet and then going in the other direction. Using your hands behind you to keep the trunk lifted. And then just go into what I just call leg bangers. So waking up the legs, just batting the legs on the floor one after the other, and seeing if you can get all the way down to feeling into the bone level. Breathing and feeling. Allowing. Listening. Great. And then we'll take a little bit of a forward extension, and so taking the hands behind the thighs and just pull the flesh away from the sits bones, and then broaden the backs of the thighs, and then broaden the backs of the knees, keeping as much as you can of the length and the trunk of the body, lifting up the heart chest. So you may not go very far forward. You want this to be a lengthening of the muscles of the legs, not a crunching of the back. So if you can come a little bit forward without rounding the back, make your way down to the calves, pulling, broadening the calves, the ankles, and maybe you can get all the way down to the toes. So it's a big stretch to the hamstrings. Don't strain to get anywhere. You can lift up the kneecaps if you to do that, have a sense that you're lifting up the heels. Here you might want to come back to that kickstand with the hands, lifting up one heel at a time, lifting up the other, keeping that action in the quadriceps, and then maybe heading a little bit forward. Back, a stretch to the west side of the body, the back of the body. And then coming back up to center and taking your right knee and lifting up that right knee, holding onto it from the back of the knee, and lift the knee up to you, and then take the knee out to the side. And here is, you may want to come back to sitting on your cushion. So my cushion is actually 2 folded blankets. Relatively, in my opinion, essential for a home yoga practice is to have a couple of blankets or a solid cushion. So if it's difficult to get that forward extension, get that nutation of the hips, then you can take a little bit of height. So otherwise, if you don't have anything, you're just sitting on the floor, don't worry about how forward you get. So Janu Shavasana, this is head of the knee pose. It's not head to knee pose, it's head of the knee. So this left leg, extend out through this left leg and kind of press down, and it's a little bit of a twist from the left to the right. And your right hand can be like a kickstand and just head forward. Any amount. Breathe. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, maybe going a little bit further. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, maybe going a little further. Doesn't matter how far you go down. If you can let go of your right hand and bring it around. We're staying for a little bit of a time just to Give the chance for that hamstring to stretch out a little bit. And then we'll come out of the pose by inhaling. You can walk your hand up the leg. And then take that right knee, bring it back up, left knee, bring it back up, and lay it back down on the floor. And feel the back of the leg from the sits bones all the way to that heel. Keep the toes facing up. And then take the right knee and pull it up towards you, and then lay it over to the right side. And then you can lean a little bit to the right side, pull the flesh away, and then turn towards that left leg. With it, keeping the action, extending out through that right leg. And then again, it's a little bit of a twist. So the right body turns to the left and start to head forward. There will be probably a difference between the right side and the left side and how far you can extend forward. It may even be a dramatic difference. For me, I feel like it's a dramatic difference. So it doesn't matter how far you go down. Your left hand now can be a kickstand to help to keep the trunk of the body lifted. And inhale, lengthen. Exhale, extend a little bit deeper. You want your belly to be soft, not crunched. If you can get a little bit deeper into the extension, your left hand can come to the outside of your foot. And ultimately, maybe in 20 years, maybe in 2 weeks, maybe never, you're extending all the way out across that leg. Again, it does not matter how far you go down. Inhale, lengthen. Lift the heart. Exhale, descend perhaps a little deeper. Keeping this head of the knee on the right hand side active. And then in order to come up out of the pose, inhale the breath. You can use your left hand, again, like a kickstand. Keep that turning towards that leg as you inhale, coming back up. Take a breath here. It's to reestablish the normalcy in the nervous system and the breath, and then take that right leg, extend it back out again. And one more extension across both legs. Again, careful not to round the back. So when you round the back, you're actually pushing back into the kidneys and adrenals and squishing all the abdominal organs and collapsing the lungs. And you want this stretch to be in the back of the legs. You do get a release from the hips up the low back, but don't strain there. Relax the shoulders away from the ears. And then inhaling the breath, you can walk your legs, coming back up, come back up to this position right here, which is Dandasana, staff pose. So the next posture that we're going to take is called, it's basically the sort of American name is called upward table. And so one of the Five Tibetans is a combination between this Dandasana and then leaning back and lifting the hips up into the upward table. So we'll take one or two of those just to show what it is, and so that when we move into the rites themselves, we don't have to talk too much about how to do it, but you can decide which variation that you want to take. You can stay right here in the Dandasana, or you can bring your hands back, take the head back, and be in this just stay right here, bent knees, lifting the heart, rolling the shoulders back, taking the head back, and then down. Inhale it back, exhale it down. Inhale it back into the cradle of the shoulders, or exhaling down. Or you can try the full-on posture of the upward table, and that's a stretch of the front of the body called Purvatasana. This is the east side of the body. This back of the body is considered the west. So your hands, you want your fingers facing forward. And take your hands back, and then in order to get the lift off, don't lead with your belly, but scoop the hips to come up. So plant your feet, know where your feet are, roll the shoulders back. So set the joints into their proper position, and then scoop the hips to bring them up. And then the head goes back. And then coming back down again. And then you'd be taking the legs out long. But for now, for these warm-ups, take one or two more just upward table, and or you can just watch, and we'll be doing them again. So you take the hands back, fingers facing forward, roll the shoulders back, plant your feet, and take a breath in as you scoop the hips and take the head back. And you don't want to let the knees roll out. And you don't want to let the feet roll out. Feel where your feet are. Eye of the knee facing the toes. And the lift comes from the inner thighs lifting, not by lifting the belly. Good. Take it back down. Either sit cross-legged or sit with your legs long, or you can bend the knees and hug them and just spend a moment here. Take a breath. So practice this just breathing. You'd think that would be good at it. But connect the just breathing with the just adding the feeling and awareness. And realizing that it's getting us out of our mind, which is one of the most important things about yoga, is getting us out of our thinking, planning, worrying, trying to control things mind. So the next posture is going to be the upward table. The Ustrasana Variation. And so you'll be on your knees with your toes coming back. And if you have, if your ankles are as a hinge that is frozen, and you can't get your ankles to go flat to the floor, or that it's straining your ankles, then you can also just come up onto the top of your toes. So try it maybe both ways. First come onto the top of the toes and press the heels back. And then the first action is to tuck the buttocks under a little bit and have a squeeze of the butt. So here you're just hanging out here, and the back is a little bit hyperextended. So tuck the buttocks under and squeeze the butt a little, and feel how your hamstrings start to get engaged. And then you take your elbows behind you and you press down and you lift up and lengthen the trunk of the body. And to take the camel part of the pose, to take the pose deeper, then you roll the shoulders back and lift the heart and take the head back. And just breathe for a couple of seconds. Now, if that's hard on your neck, just keep your head facing forward and lift the heart chest and roll the shoulders back. Very soft gaze with your eyes. Take care. Notice if you have this staring and this very active eye, so it's very soft eyes. The more you go back, you want to lift the heart chest. Don't push the belly forward to go back. So don't push the hips forward to go back. So keep the stabilization of the legs. Breathing and come back to center, and you can either come down onto your shins and rest, or you can try the second phase, where the second part, where you turn the toes back. So instead of being on the top of the toes, you're on the top of the foot. And then here, you get more of the actual Ustrasana action. So the Ustrasana, is the camel. Be careful of your knees when you start to go back. The camel, you know when a camel, visualize it. It's not about the hump when you take this round. It's when the camel stands up, it presses into its shins and then it lifts itself up, right? So think of that camel action as lifting. So you want to let yourself drop back a little bit and feel the hamstrings activate to hold you up. And then try it again without straining the knees. So pressing back even through the pinky toe. All of the toes pressing. Big toe, pinky toe. And then it's the same action. Shoulders back. Heart lifted. Lengthen the side body. And be careful if you take the head back. If your neck, if you have a congestion in your neck or any like dystonia or anything or any compressed neck vertebra, then just keep your head, your eyes facing forward. And take 1 or 2 camel Ustrasanas. Or just rest in sitting on your shins and we'll move on. Final pose. Hands come to the feet. Pressing through the feet to inhale the head back up. Come back to sit on your heels. And take a few breaths again for the nervous system and the blood to normalize. So you get a lot of potentially blood rush to the head. Don't move forward until you feel that your face is calm again, your eyes are calm, your breath is calm. So be aware, mindful breathing. Sometimes the hardest work in the mindful movement practice or the yoga practice is just being present, staying present. Doesn't have to be a difficult posture. Sometimes just being present without doing anything is the hardest part. Our mind immediately wants to start going into narrative and judgment. Train it just to stay present. So this is mindful training of the mind. And our body is an opportunity to practice that. Our body, which is subject to change and illness and injury, and which is affected by emotions and affected by thought. This practice, using our body, is brilliant. So let go of judgment. And also sometimes we have to let go of not knowing. So out in this world right now, there's so much that we don't know. And sometimes that causes worry and anxiety again. So what a better way to practice how to deal with anxiety and worry and concern when you with just your playground mat of your yoga space. Knowing that with practice, you'll become more familiar. In the meantime, with a sense of joyous curiosity, we'll move on. So the next warm-up is going to be a variation on the 4th of the Tibetan rites, which is a combination of a sit-up and a leg lift. So we'll kind of do a little of both. So you'll be back on your elbows, rolling the shoulders back, and then extend the legs out. Back on your elbows, pressing into now, like we pressed into the shins, we're pressing into the forearm to lift the heart. And then you can just start with your knees bent, pulling them up towards the heart, and extend the legs. And if two legs is hard, if this is hard, difficult for your back or causes you pain, extend one leg. And extend the other leg. And extend one leg. Lift the heart so you don't want to sink. No sinking, just lifting in this upward boat type movement. The head will go back into the cradle of the shoulders. And then if you like, you can extend the legs to bring them down, not all the way to the earth. See if you can just hover an inch away. Inhale up, exhale down. Inhale up, exhale down. Or just go with one leg. Don't do too many because we're going to be doing them again. So this is showing and giving variations and warming up for the practice. Extending legs. Extending legs. And then go ahead and lie down on your back and take a breather. Take a pause, a breathing pause, just being aware of your breath. Whew. Be aware of your pulse. Be aware of your heart. Be aware if you have a lot of pressure in your face and your eyes. That's when you know you want to back off. So our variation one, before we move on to this number 4 Tibetan Rite, is just being on your elbows and then lifting up the heart. So go ahead and do a couple of those if you like. So you're going to press into the shin and lift into the wrist, into the forearm. Keep the shoulders back and lift up. You can hold on to the sides of your thighs. So this is also strengthening for the neck. So just having tried that a couple of times, make a note and see if that is difficult or if that is easy, and then go ahead and relax again on your back for a moment. You can take the knees to the chest if you like. And practice breathing. And when you're ready, you're going to roll forward, go back and forth a couple times on your back, side to side, one side and then the other. Roll on one side of the back and then roll on the other. And see if you can transition to coming forward onto your hands and knees. So I'll show one more time if you want to watch. Otherwise, roll to the side and then press yourself up and come onto your belly. So you can transition like this, rolling, and then you cross your shins, and then you quickly come down onto the table position and lower yourself down. And I'm just going to show this briefly because the 5th Tibetan Rite is a combination of an upward and downward dog. So we'll just do 1 or 2 and then we'll come to stand to do the 5 Tibetans. And doing the 5 Tibetans probably will only take about 10 minutes to practice. So what a wonderful practice that you can do every day for yourself that starts with 10 minutes and then you gradually build up. So your hands are at your chest, alongside of your ribs. And then you inhale the chest up and then you exhale the hips up. Inhale the chest up. So it's an upward and downward dog. So, having seen, perhaps having done, go ahead and bring yourself up to a standing position, push down off the ground, and come on up to stand. And then taking Tadasana just to, again, pause and breathe. Soft eyes. Find a gaze about 8 feet in front of you. Active legs. And we'll start with the very first one. The first Tibetan is spinning. And your variation for spinning, if you get dizzy, if you don't want to spin, then just take this empty coat sleeves. And so everybody, just go ahead and for a moment, take these empty coat sleeves, just exhaling. Imagining your arms are empty coat sleeves, getting a little bit of a twist. It doesn't have to be too deep. Let your opposite heel come up. A couple of times more. Shifting and changing all of the energy in your body. Stoking the fire that will never go out in your belly. Nobody can squelch that fire. And then come to standing. And in our spinning, we think about children, how they love to spin, to change consciousness, how Sufis spin to change consciousness. Some of you might remember the good old Grateful Dead times, those spinners during the shows, they would not stop spinning. I'm sure their consciousness was shifting and changing. And it could have been something more than the spinning, but here we are. So you stretch the arms out. We're going to spin 5 times clockwise. We think down under, they spin counterclockwise. But anyway, after the 5 spins, you're going to step back, bring your palms together, and gaze at your hands until you regain your balance. So, either join in the spins, very softly gazing and softly breathing, keep your eyes facing forward, and we'll take 5 spins. Shoulder blades down, fingertips slightly up, kind of like the bird's wings. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then step back and step forward. Bring your hands together. Softly gaze to regain your balance. So that before we move forward, your balance is regained in your breath, in your composure. Great. And when you feel ready, we're going to meet coming down onto the floor for this second Tibetan Rite, which is very helpful for our heart, our thymus, our thyroid, our adrenals, our lymph nodes. And so 5th Tibetan Rite is inhaling, lengthening, exhale, chin down, and inhale, upward table, and exhale, coming back to center. Inhaling, Dandasana, lengthen, exhale, chin down. Stay here if you need, just doing the up and down, or stay in the table and breathe. So yogi's choice, otherwise full Tibetan. Inhale, lengthen, exhale, chin lock, inhale, hands back, exhale. 1. Inhale, exhale, inhale. 2. 3. 4. lengthen. Exhale, chin down. Inhale, hands back and head back. And from here, rest. Receive. Normalize. Regain your composure before moving forward. You can bend your knees and take a little forward bend. And when you feel ready, calm. Cross your legs, lean back, and come into the Dandasana or Ustrasana position. Tibetan Rite number 3. Also involves a chin lock and a chin open. So choose your battle, whether your toes are up or your toes are back. Squeeze your butt, roll the shoulders back to protect your back. Inhale, lengthen, push down on your hands and elbows back. Exhale, chin down. Inhale, exhale. So choose your variation. Inhale, exhale, chin down, inhale. 2. Soft eyes. 3. 4. 5. To rest, come down onto your calves and just breathe. Again, letting go of judgment, letting go of did I do something wrong or right, just feeling. Being present when you feel like the blood pressure is normalized. And then we'll meet on our back. And the 4th Tibetan Rite. 5th, 4th, yep. Lying back. So I'll show. I'll watch. You can watch first. So take your variation. So the full Tibetan Rite is starting on your back and inhaling everything up and exhaling down. Inhaling up and exhaling down. 2, 3, 4, 5. Or just leg lifting with the head back or forward. Or just lifting up the heart chest. So pick your battles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Woo, and then just receive. You can also bend your knees and bring your feet up to the floor. And when you feel normalized, either vinyasa, rolling over your feet to come to your belly, or roll to the side and come onto your belly for the last of the 5th Tibetan Rites, the fountain of youth, nourishing your glands. One of the reasons why we get, why we feel like we're older is because our glands stop being able to have their full-on function like when they were younger, and they shrink, and then they get filled possibly like with toxins, and they lose their pump, and they don't have the ability, they lose the ability to be nourished. And that's why we need to basically exercise or get massage or something like that. But this mindful movement also trains our minds, and you get a little bit of aerobics, and you get a nice little exercise and movement for all of your joints, lubricating them. So we'll meet on our bellies. And when you feel ready, you can begin. You can either spend time in the up dog or spend time in the down dog. for your first experiences, and gradually just adding as you get stronger. Or you can do both. Inhale up, exhale back. 1. Inhale up, exhale, chin lock. 2. Inhale up. 3. 4. And 5. Coming to lie down on your belly, or come all the way forward and lie down on your back. So we'll meet lying down on our backs. Well, we'll meet coming back up to sitting. Taking a few moments to have that breathing awareness, mindful pause. See if you can be present when the blood pressure and the nervous system calms down again, when your body has normalized. The breath is normalized, the pressure. And so for this last, there's actually 2 more components for this 5 Tibetan rites that puts kind of like the icing and then the cherry on the top of the cake. So the ice cream on the top of the cake, and you won't want to do this if you're pregnant, or if you have untreated high blood pressure or detached retina. Because what we're going to do is you're going to breathe in, and you're going to kind of press down on that breath. So for 3 times, you take an inhalation and then hold that breath, and then kind of push down, pressure the breath down, so that you're sending all the energy throughout all of the chakras, the crown of the head all the way down to your Muladhara root chakra. So, use your own discretion at how much pressing that you can do. You don't want to blow yourself up. And otherwise, just sit here and breathe. 3 times, breathing in and then holding before you exhale, and then breathe in again and hold. Relax your face, relax your jaw. Don't clench your throat. Two. Exhale. Inhale. 3. And then with your eyes closed or lightly open, soft gaze, take a few normalizing breaths, and then we'll do continuous om. And the ah, o, sound is the ah, is ah, o, whole 3 parts of the om, a continuous for a couple of cycles, to also to balance and to send all of this energy throughout every cell of your body and beyond. And then we'll take relaxation. So if you'd like to just meet in relaxation, please give yourself the time to Shavasana yourself. Oming from your belly. Maybe nobody's listening. Practice. one or two more. Take a moment to breathe and just receive, right? Hopefully you're getting better at that. And then make your way onto your back for deep relaxation. And I'll keep track of the time. I will ring the bell 3 times, 4:30 my time. So you can let go of time, let go of be in the place where there was no such thing as time, but give yourself this time for the work that you've done to fully integrate. And so you can lie down on your back. I like to have a blanket. So like I said, if you want to have a home yoga practice, you may want to get a couple of Mexican blankets, they just happen to be. But also cargo blankets are helpful. And so I have this folded in such a way that I lay it down and then give a little bit of a curl on the edge here, on the folded edge, and that's going to be right about the support of my neck. And my shoulders are going to be on the ground, and my head's going to be on the blanket. And my other blanket, if you like, you can fold it as such, or just lie down and make a little roll out of it, or make just a double fold, whatever you like, and have that be under your knees or under your thighs, right up at the buttocks. So if you have a sensitive back and it's hard to lie down on your back, give yourself some support. Put something underneath your knees. You can use a cushion. You could use a pillow, but the pillows, unless it's a nice down pillow like this that you can scrunch up into a bolster. A bolster about this big, I'm showing, under your knees. And then just lie back and let go everywhere. So take a few moments to feel your body and where you are in space, where your heels are, where your hands are, your shoulders, your elbows, the back of the head. So shimmy a little. Be completely, as much as you can, on the full bones, the whole shoulder blade, especially the top spine. So roll your shoulders under. Shimmy a little bit so your sacrum is flat. You'll still have a normal curve at the lumbar. But lengthen your sacrum away from the crown of your head a little bit. And then stretch out through the heels. Invite the heels to descend deep into the earth. And then come back again to the back of the head. Move the back of the head around a little bit so you know that your forehead is parallel, your head's not tilted back, or your chin's not tucking. Shoulder blades, sacrum, heels, and then let it go. Let everything release completely from the inside out. And then come home to your breath. Coming home to your breath as it moves freely and effortlessly through your body without obstruction. Relax the face and the jaw. Be aware of your thoughts as they arise, but just take care not to follow them. Acknowledge them. Acknowledge your thoughts. And then your anchor is coming back to the breath. You can sigh out a couple of times. Letting go even more. Shavasana. Deep relaxation. Nothing to do and nowhere to go. What a gift. as you become aware of the ring of the bell, instead of having it be a jolt for you to rush outwards, just notice, see if you can just relax, drop a little bit deeper somewhere, somehow, with each toll of the Tibetan bowl, and then I'll walk you out in such a way that you can take your time before moving forward into your day. With all of the qualities of your practice. Gradually making your way back to normal waking consciousness, keeping your eyes closed if possible, very gently, lightly closed, and invite your in-breaths to be a little bit deeper and your exhalations a little bit longer, and trace your breath as it percolates outward once again to your fingers and your toes. Trace your awareness as it percolates out once again with your breath. And then beginning to wake up the body again. Invite your inhalations to be, wiggle your toes and wiggle your fingers, and again, just kind of keep that breath a little bit deeper and a little bit longer, but a natural breath, and having these little micro movements, then become more macro movements as you're ready. Mindful movement. And when you feel ready, perhaps taking your knees to the chest, give yourself a big hug, or maybe just take your arms over your head, stretch the arms, or maybe take the elbow, hold on to the elbows behind your head and rest your elbow over your forehead. Just a way to keep that sense of turning inward and seal your Shavasana, seal all that work that you've done on your nervous system and on your glandular system and on your physical, your emotional body. And when you feel ready, rolling over to the side, take a few breaths there. Before pressing yourself up to a comfortable seated position. And just a reminder, I absolutely teach from what has been taught to me from my teachers, and also what comes to me from my own practice and what works for me. And how I can truly make the best of this mindful movement practice and the work that I've done. And so personally, I really, really love this coming out of Shavasana in a slow, deliberate way, because the world will still wait for me. This is 5 minutes after the bell rang, but that's 5 minutes of really just sealing the practice into every cell of my body, so that when I move forward, I can maintain that sense of calm abiding. The little things that I might have learned about myself kind of still bubbling up, but what I'm present with is just the calm abiding. So, if you are my practice each afternoon, I start at 3:30 my time, and we do a couple of minutes of breathing and grounding and landing and allowing people to join in. And then I usually introduce what is going to come next for the practice, what I'm wrapping my practice around, and then move forward. And then I ring the bell at 4:30, and then give yourself some time afterwards, a couple of minutes. And I always like to share some sort of inspiration, some sort of a prayer, some sort of closure. And this evening, to send us off, I'm going to read to you something that my mother just sent to me in the mail. And it is about the spring season. And many of you maybe are out there planting and getting your hands back into the dirt and really appreciating the fact that spring is so wonderful, because everything is new. Not one thing is old. Everything is new. And this comes from this women's health initiative that my mom has been a part of probably for like 50 years. But anyway, it says, plant your spring garden. Plant 3 rows of peas. Peace of mind, peace of heart, peace of soul. Plant 4 rows of squash. Squash gossip. Squash indifference. Squash grumbling. And squash selfishness. Plant 4 rows of lettuce. Let us be faithful. Let us be kind. Let us be happy. And let us really love one another. We must have time. Time for fun. Time for rest. Time for ourselves. No garden should be without turnips. Turn up for service when needed. Turn up to help one another. Turn up the music and dance. To nurture your garden, water freely with patience. Cultivate with love, and your garden will bear much fruit. Because you reap what you sow. Thank you for your participation in this mindful movement. I am very grateful to be able to offer this practice, and I'm grateful to make these connections in this world that sometimes is very disconnected, and it's sometimes hard to connect. I'm grateful for that. It gives me something very, very positive to do with my time. It gives me something to look forward to. And I'm just grateful to be able to share my gifts, and I'm grateful that you've joined in any capacity in any time. So I will put this up on the YouTube so you can access it in the future and you can share it. And please feel free to to like and to subscribe to my very humble YouTube channel. And so I'll post it when it goes up. And so I'll end as always with this prayer that reminds me and hopefully encourages you. And the acting word is Purna, Purnamada, Purnamadam. And what it means is that the prayer means that everything is perfect. Even in perfection, there is imperfection. You take away from perfect and it's still perfect. And in perfection, there is always, in imperfection, there's always perfection. So we are perfect, aren't we? Om Purnamada Purnamadam Purnamadutshate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamavivavashishate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om. And I dedicate the virtue and the merit gathered from this practice to the lasting happiness of all beings, so that all beings may be free from suffering and the causes and conditions of suffering. And may all beings be happy with the causes and conditions of happiness. Namaste. Go forward in peace. And I'll be back again tomorrow at 3:30 and at 8 p.m. tonight, Central Time, for our satsang meditation. It's a nice guided meditation for a half an hour or so. Okay, take care, be good. Always do your best.